as you and I have talked about in the past, there's a misconception out there that as long as you have the asset marked with a compliant label, then you should be all set. You know, if you have a compliant IUID label on the asset, that's a great step. You're moving towards it. But you still need to comply to the reporting obligation. Reporting that asset data to the WAFI Business Suite and then up to the IUID Registry is really critical to the success of your program. Can you talk to us about this reporting obligation and maybe also why some people overlook it?
Let me talk about two important clauses, DFARS. First one is DFARS 252.211-7003. That is the marking requirement. You'll probably see that on a contract. That tells you you have a requirement to mark the label, mark your asset with the UID label. What you don't always see on a contract is DFARS clause 252.211-7007, and that is the reporting DFARS clause. Especially if you are a vendor who's supplying end items to the government, you have an obligation to report all items that you supply to them. Now, the reason why this gets looked over is because it's not a tangible item. You see the label, it goes on the asset, no problem, I've marked it, I've shipped it, I'm good. But what people don't see, or what sometimes people don't realize, is there's also a reporting requirement. You have to tell the government what it is that you sent them. The issue with reporting, however, once you've marked and shipped the asset, the reporting comes down the road, because when you're required to report information to the IUID Registry through the WARF, or formerly known as IRAP, which is now PIE, P-I-E-E, there's a number of different data items that need to be reported for just one asset. What the item is, how it was acquired, the initial value of the item, who has the custody, how was it marked. There's all these pedigree pieces of information that need to be required, including the ship date and the most importantly, the acceptance date. You cannot complete an IUID registration until you've not only marked and shipped the item, but the government has to accept that in. Because once they accept it in, you get that electronic transmission back that, I've shipped it, it's been delivered, it's been accepted. You cannot do what I like to call a partial registration. You need all those pieces of information to complete the reporting process. But it's just as important as marking the label, because you need to tell that the government, hey, here's what I did, here's what I shipped, here's when I shipped it, here's when you accepted it. All that's in the registry. That's how the government knows what they have and who has it. That's how they're tracking it. It's all about accountability of all the government assets, and that IUID registry is the database that's used to do that.
Great, great. So once you have that data, your registration data that you need organized, you need to decide how you're going to actually get this job done. You know, what are our options for asset registration?
Well, just like the labels, you have in this case, you have three options. You can simply manually enter the data in PIE to the IUID registry. You can outsource the requirement, have somebody do it for you, or you could buy the software to do it yourself. Again, it all comes down to return on investment. What makes most sense from a financial perspective? And again, I'm going to go right back to the basic fundamental issue is, well, how many do I have? If you have, and I use this just as a guideline, let's say less than 10 per year, very small number. Again, let's say you're a mom and pop shop, you really don't have the personnel to be doing this, but that's a manageable number. I would say you should do that yourself. Keeping in mind, there's approximately 15 to 20 pieces of data that you have to enter for just one UID. Entering this in through PIE to get to the IUID registry, it's a very time-consuming process. Quite frankly, the system is not very intuitive and it can be frustrating. Plus, everything you enter has to be 100% accurate. You got to make sure you have the correct cage code, correct part number, serial number, etc. All that information has to be accurate. By either outsourcing it or using third-party software, now you're electronically reporting. And the benefits of electronically reporting is it guarantees that all the data that's being submitted is going to be accurate, because it won't simply allow you to submit unless all that data has been formatted correctly and it's been fully vetted, so that it will allow an electronic transmission to go through. So again, the easiest way to look at it is, how many IUIDs do I have, let's say on an annual basis? Do I have the personnel? Or in some cases, maybe you just don't even want to deal with it. So I'll have a third-party vendor do it, or definitely having in-house, especially if your volume is high.